All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the Thinkorswim training class. I'm not going to go over Thinkorswim in its entirety because we will be here for like 10 hours. It's a really, really complex trading platform, which is fantastic. But again, I'm going to keep it relatively streamlined in things that help me, that I'll share with you guys, and just like, setting it up, how to use certain features, things like that. As we go through the class, any questions that you have, you're welcome to place it in the chat. All I ask is that if you do want to come off mute, you either do it when I stop to answer your question or towards the end. That way I don't get distracted because for those who know me, I talk a lot. And if you let me, I will go off on rants for a while. So trying to keep this pretty straightforward and streamlined so we can get through it in a reasonable time. Other than that, my name is Advent for those who don't know, and I'm not a financial advisor. So anything that we may go over this class or any of my material is not financial advice. Trading does have its risks, so please do your research before you engage in trading. Really quickly, actually, before I fully get into it, I want to just bring this up really quick because somebody was asking me yesterday. One sec, it's loading up on my other screen. So somebody asked me how to paper trade on Thinkorswim. When you have this loaded up, keep in mind that if you want a live trade, pretty straightforward. Just click on live trading. It's going to be blue. If you want a paper trade, click on paper money. It's going to turn yellow. And then you just log in like normal and you'll be good to go. Yes, we're also going to be going over the mobile version if my computer wants to cooperate. Sometimes it doesn't, but if not, I can have that as a separate class. So, starting off, and I do encourage you guys, if you do have if you're on your computer, to have your application up as well so you can follow along. But the first things that we really want to do is make sure all our settings for the platform are up to date. So on the top right, on the desk, and we're going to be using the desktop version, and we're also going to go over the mobile version later on. So on the desktop version, when you're logged in, on the top right, the first thing we're going to do is click on setup. And here we have different options like application settings. If people ever send you a script or a study or a scanner, things like that, we're always going to be using open shared item, which we'll go over a little later. And then your workspaces that you can save, delete, edit, so on. The order tab to look like, which we'll go over later on. And then your positions, how you want it to display. I've never really messed with anything here or in the order section. Active trader. This is kind of just like the latency. You want to really keep that to the minimum. You don't want no latency. The system, always make sure that your quote speed is real time with no delay because you do not want to trade with delayed data. When we're trading, as always, time is of the essence. So always keep that in mind. It also will tell you up here real-time data or delayed data, so on and so forth. But always come in here and just double check on what you have checked. So make sure that's on real time. If you don't like the bell, you can turn that off if you want to or customize it. I've never customized it. I just kind of just keep the generic one. Doesn't really bother me. Security, if you wanted to just log you out automatically, if you just leave your computer open, I just leave it at 24 hours because I'm the only one who uses my computer. But, if you live in a house with other people, you're more than welcome to mess around with the settings there. Startup, I usually leave this as the last screen that I used. So when I log back in, it automatically just leaves me on the charts where I was last. I don't really do anything here either. That's just how I like it. Look and feel, you can change, light, version, dark, old school, things like that. Really, whatever you prefer. My eyes are sensitive, so I like to use the dark mode with everything that I can anyway. And you can, adjust different options. If you want more room, if you want it normal, a little tighter, so on and so forth. You can mess around with that there. In the display section, I've never really messed with anything in here in this specific section. So you can mess around with this. Calculations. Oh, whoops, that's language. As always, again, make sure your real-time data is on for your calculations when you're doing different things. For the P&L method, I believe essentially what that does is just show you the amount that you're in a position for. I've never really messed with this section myself personally. So just based on the options that we see here, it looks like it's just basic, like, how do you want your P&L to show by the price you got in only, or how much how much the position is worth, so on and so forth. Really whatever you want. And of course, language. Obviously, I have mine in English. There's other languages there. So you can mess around with that. And then hit apply settings when you're finished here so you can save your settings. Notifications are pretty straightforward. You can mess around with the emails, the numbers that you want to send alerts to if you want to mess around with that. So let's say you may not be at your computer, but you still want to be alerted to your phone when you get certain alerts. So you can have it send it to your phone, to your email, really whatever you want. Order defaults for those who trade more aggressively. This may be important for you. So if you're trading stocks, you can have the default number of shares be 100, which I'm actually going to change to 1 since I always mess up there sometimes. Last week, I went to buy 10 shares and I bought 100 by mistake. So always double check what you have here so you don't fat finger a trade like me and mess up a mistake. Thankfully, it went up in value and not down, so it worked out in my favor. But same thing for options. I usually keep it at 1 because depending what I'm trading, sometimes the contract may be worth $60. Another time it might be worth $400. So I'd rather not have my default at, let's say, 5 or whatever it may be. And then by mistake, open up a trade that has 5 contracts worth 400 when I was really looking to only get 2. So I always do the default at 1, again, just because I've made mistakes before and we are human and we don't want to mess up. Same thing for futures. If you trade future options, so on and so forth, you can mess around with it here. Hotkeys, I personally don't really use just because usually when I'm getting into trades, it's not necessarily like I'm going to buy or I'm going to like buy the bid or buy the ask. Maybe you could use it for like market buy or market sell, but I'm pretty set in my ways with the way I trade. And I don't really need to be lightning fast for people who may want to use hotkeys. So instead of like, opening up the order screen, clicking what you want to do, limit order, market, so on and so forth, you can just set up specific shortcuts on your keyboard to do those trades, right? So if you want to bring up specific tabs on active trader, instead of like clicking it, you would just use your keyboard to get in market, ask, really whatever it is that you really want to set up there. So all that can be done there. My profile section is just, whatever you're going to be nicknaming the specific profile that you have set up. So let's say if you have one for options, that's very different than one you have for futures, you can mess around with them there. Any questions on that before I continue? All right, let's keep it going. So next portion in the setup section, we're going to talk about bringing up scanners, different studies, things like that. So let me bring up this link real quick. I should have one. So if you ever see a link like this, it's like tos.mx and has like a bunch of random characters. These are items that you will be opening up in the shared items. So if you click on the link, people would always let me know, hey, the link is broken, it doesn't work. You don't actually click on the link. You're just going to copy it, copy the link, go into your setup, open shared item, and then you're going to paste it in here. And then you're going to hit preview. And then it's going to tell you what the script or study is. And then you can, name it whatever you want. Then you're going to import it. Same thing for the scanners, which we'll go over later on when we go over the scan tab. But essentially everything that people would share with you, studies, scripts, whatever it may be, you're always going to be using the open shared item to open that up. You would never ever click on the link directly because it's not really going to do much. So this is how you would do that. Next section that I'll just quickly go over is the workspace section. So the workspace is essentially this, right? How your charts are, your settings, things like that. I don't believe I could be wrong about this, unless I'm thinking about something else, but your drawings, I don't believe will be part of the workspace. So keep that in mind. Again, I could be wrong about that. All I do know is that from paper trading to the live trading version of TOS. So let me minimize this real quick. Quick little tip. If you're on paper trading, this is paper trading. This is the live trading. You can tell by simulated trading. That way you'll know when you're on the paper trading version. So let's say I set up a bunch of stuff here and I draw a bunch of lines or a bunch of broader informations, whatever it may be. I can save this workspace. So I could just bring it over to my live version. It's just not going to bring your drawings over. So just keep that in mind. And you'll also have to load up your studies all over again. It's not going to bring everything over from the paper trading, but we'll go over that a little later on again. So a workspace, what I always recommend you guys to do is after you set up your screen however you want, which we'll go over the charts in a bit, after you set everything up, save your workspace as, and you can just name it whatever you want. So I might do TOS training, and then I always do the date. So 11/2/24 or 11/02/2024, really however you want to do it. That way I know when I saved that workspace. And if I need to go back to it, I'm like, all right, this specific one, like for example, this one I did in June, this one I did in July. So this is the most updated one that I have. Actually, no, this is the most updated one I have right here from September. So I like to keep the dates there just to be a little more clear on what they were. And then of course you can just delete them there. And then they'll be here as well, or like if you want to quickly cycle between different workspaces. Cool. Setup section, clear, making sense? Any questions? Cool. So next section, right under there, the little like sun gear looking icon. This is for the options that we'll have up here, like option buying power, how much cash I have, stuff like that. I don't really need or care for having too much data up here. So you can just edit it up here for what you want. Your cash balance, how much you have for trading, so on and so forth, how much you made today, how much P&L you're open for the year, really whatever you want, honestly. So you can customize all of that there. So it just shows up on this bar up here. Usually, or not usually, I don't look at my P&L, so I have everything hidden. So if you do tend to get emotional when you're trading because you're looking at the money, make sure to hide that, which you can do up here on the left side. So where it says option BP, I'll click on that and just go to privacy, and then it'll hide everything. So you're not seeing the money that you're up or down in case that affects you. Cool. So pretty straightforward for that section. It just customizes the little items you have up here. Excuse me. Next section, on demand. So for on demand, that's just Thinkorswim's replay feature. So when you go in on demand, it'll basically, well, let's just do it live actually. So when you go back to on demand, it's going to have a date up here. So if I want to go and see what happened, let's say, oh, whoops, let's not go into the future. Let's say I want to see what happened on October 30th, and I want to see what happened at 10:18. Hit go. It'll load up. Depending how much data you're trying to load up, it may take a while, and depending how fast or slow your computer is. So keep that in mind. Usually when I have a bunch of screens up, it takes a good amount of time. So I only went back a few days, so it's usually pretty quick. And with this, you're basically trading the market during that time. As we can see right now, this is a live replay of what happened on that day. So you can see different things here. So if you want to, test certain things, see how specific contracts would have moved, so on and so forth, you can mess around with on demand. Really, really great feature. And then to get out of it, just click on it again, and it'll go back to your regular live trading account. Cool. So moving on, I'll start from the left side, and then we'll go through each tab until we get to charts, because that's going to be the one we're going to spend the most time on. The monitor section, pretty straightforward. I'll actually bring it up here because I have all of this hidden, so my account numbers and stuff aren't there. But monitor tab, it'll essentially give you a ton of information, whatever you have added to it, really. It'll let you know your profits or losses. Oh, whoops, activities and positions. So actually, let's go here. So the account statement section, just because I have more things added here than the paper trading section, it'll let you know how much cash you have, your orders, and the history of that day or however many days you set this up. How much money you have in equities or stock, options, futures, so on and so forth, whatever it may be. Your profit and loss, the account summary, which will give you different information regarding, how much you're up, down, so on and so forth. If you want to get your trade log so you can keep track of all your trades, like I tend to upload my trades on TraderSync. So what I'll do when I'm done trading, I'll just choose one day. And if I wanted to get my data from Friday, I'll just set that up there. Well, I'll just go back here and just keep it for one day. And then I'm going to go to the right side over here, right under on demand. I'm going to click on the actions menu, and I'm going to export the file. And then that's going to let you save the trade log. So I upload it to TraderSync, or you can just, look at it yourself and see what positions you got into, what time you got into, so on and so forth. I just upload it to TraderSync because it just inputs all of the information for me. And then I just write my notes down. So definitely take note of all your trades and journal them. Next section is the trade tab. Trade, pretty straightforward in this section. Let me bring this down. I don't use this at all when I'm actually trading, usually just when I'm teaching or just looking for some specific contracts when I'm studying. But I never use this section to actually trade actively. It's just too slow for me personally. But essentially, you can bring this up here, see what the bid is, what the ask is. If you click on buy or sell, it'll bring up the order entry down here, and it'll have the current price that you may want to get in, the type of order that you want to place. So if you want to click on that and do a market or stop or trail, really whatever you want, honestly, that'll give you all those options there. If you want it to be a day order that's only in for the day, good till canceled. If you trade regular stock and you want to get in on after hours or pre-market, you want to make sure that you have extended data on. If you only want to get the order in pre-market, you would do AM or in the afternoon, after hours, PM, and so on and so forth. The underlying is going to be for the regular stock price. For the options, you're going to want to bring up the options chain right over here. So in this section, these little tabs, delta, gamma, theta, etc. If you want to customize this, all you need to do is just click on layout and you can hit customize. And then it'll give you different things that you can add in. So if you want to see how much the volume that was traded that day, so on and so forth, how much it changed that day, you can add that in. Excuse me. And then it'll tell you here what the delta is, the gamma, theta, IV, so on and so forth. Right over here, it's going to give you the strikes. So for me, I usually keep it to 10 to 14, depending what I'm trading, because I usually choose at the money or in the money contracts. I don't do out the money, so I only really care to see what's near the stock price. And if you want to see all of them, obviously you can click on that. Just keep in mind, depending what you're trading, there can be a lot. So I usually keep it to 10 to 14, depending what I'm trading. Right over here, it's going to, on these lines with arrows, it's going to let you know. So the yellow ones are going to be weekly contracts. The grayed out ones are monthly contracts. So whenever you hear me say, hey, there's OPEX tomorrow or today or whatever, these gray contracts or these gray dates are OPEX, options of expiration, if you want to quickly look at that. It also gives you the time and sales. So, how much were bought, how much were sold at the specific price, so on and so forth. I personally don't use time and sales. I haven't used them for like 2 years, so I don't really care about this personally. But for those who may want to look at that, you can look at it there. This as well, it'll give you the statistics, how many calls were purchased, puts, so on and so forth. If you want to get extra data. Again, I personally don't look at this, so I always have it hidden. This I never use, so I can't really give too much insight there. So any questions on this section before I continue? On the trade tab? Actually, one thing that I forgot, as you guys may or may not be asking your questions. If you click on the little arrow right here, it's going to bring up this drop down and you can see the different things that you can trade. So if you want to trade whatever positions you actually have, futures, if you want to look for a specific ticker, you can look it up there. Options, you just got to type in the symbol for whatever it is that you want to look for. Indices, so on and so forth. Analyze tab. In this section, you can essentially, let's say for those who may want to see what their option may be priced at a specific price of the stock, or how much it may be worth when it hits your specific stock price for the option. It'll give you a theoretical price for the option. It's not going to be exact, but it could be a little close. So you can always mess around with that here. I personally don't really use this since I just kind of calculate it in my head based on the delta when I'm trading options. But if you do find this helpful to just make it easier for yourself, you have this tool here for you. Scan tab, everybody's favorite. So with the scan tab, you can just make your own scan criteria for whatever it is that you're looking for. So in this example, let's say I want to look for inside bar setups on the 4-hour time frame. I already have this set up here, but we'll do it from scratch in a bit. When you hit scan, it'll bring up all of the items that meet the criteria of your scan. And you can adjust it, how much volume you want minimum, and the maximum that you want of the stock price, so on and so forth. Again, I really just look for strat setup, so super simple on my end. But for those who may trade stock and you want to look for very, very specific criteria, you can do all of that here. You can add a filter and then just add whatever you want. So if you want, let's say, if you're looking for gappers, things that pumped up 20, 30, 40%, 50%, whatever it may be, you can do that here. And then just add, I want to look for things that are 30% up on the day. And then have that saved there. Now, when you get your settings right, again, you want to save it, right? So we're going to click on these three little lines by little fire icon. Make sure to save your scan because you don't want to spend like an hour or 30 minutes or whatever it is, developing your scanner and then you forget to save it and you got to do it all over again, which can be very, very annoying. So let's look for one that I don't have so we can add a scan here. Let's see. Give me a sec. I'm just going to open up this file real quick. So let's say I want to look for which is one that I don't have. I don't think I have outside week. So I'm going to take the link, copy the link, like I mentioned. We're going to go into open shared item, going to paste that in there, preview, outside week. It's going to be the scan. We're going to import that. My Thinkorswim might have crashed. Yeah, this thing is frozen. There we go. All right, we're back. So wait, no, we're still frozen. All right, let's give this a few seconds and see what happens. I think that scanner broke my TOS. Well, we'll use this one for now while I bring this back up. So open the shared item, bring up your scanner. After we do that, see if I have any in here. No, I don't. Give me a sec. Let me restart my TOS. All right, we're back in action. So once you load up your scanner and you import it, usually mine just come into the personal section, and then you'll just load up whatever it was that you added. Then just find it in the list. So I have the outside week right here that loaded up, search for it, and it'll give me all the tickers that have that specific setup. And then I can look for it on the chart to confirm and see what I may want to look for. So this usually keeps it simple when I may be looking for swing trades and look for specific stocks that I enjoy trading. Any questions on the scan tab before we continue? Darlene, did that clear it up on how to open up the scanners and stuff? Sweet. In the mobile, I believe, so when we get to the mobile version, I'll show you guys what this looks like. I don't think you can open shared items on the mobile app. I think just the desktop and um, the web version. But you can see your scanners on the mobile version, which I'll show you guys a little later on. It'll be under the watch list section on the mobile app. So, any questions on the scans before we continue? So to save it, right under where it says on demand, next little like fire looking icon, we're going to click on show scan query menu and click on save scan query. And then it'll ask you what you want to name it as and so on and so forth. Yeah, Norman. So you have to save it on the desktop, and then from there, it'll show up on the mobile app with whatever settings you have, which I'll show you guys in a little bit when we finish with the desktop. Marketwatch, pretty straightforward. It'll just have quotes for tickers that you want to add to this list. I've personally never touched this quotes section. Sometimes I'll just go here to see what alerts I still have active. So if you want to see what alerts you have on, you can check them all over here. See which ones are active, canceled, so on and so forth. You could always add a note. So let's say I'm looking at NVIDIA and I can make a note here. Buy 145 calls above this level. And then I'll save that. That way I know why I placed that note or I placed that alert. And then you could always just right click on it, or if you're using a MacBook, double click on it, cancel alert, replace the alert. Different one, pretty whatever you want. MC, to access this software, you need to have an account with Schwab, and then you can download Thinkorswim. So you need to have an account with Schwab to be able to use this platform. Of course. So your market watch section, pretty straightforward. It has a calendar here for earnings, dividends, things like that. And it'll kind of break it down. You just have to expand this a little more to give you more data. I've personally never used this section. I've maybe looked at it twice, so I'm not going to go into details of this. Again, Thinkorswim is very, very complex, and there's like a billion features that I'm not even aware of. So I'd always encourage you guys to mess around with it. I'll mention this later on as well, but Schwab does offer like one-on-ones with their representatives, where they'll walk you through Thinkorswim for 45 minutes. If your assets are under 1 million, you could do one session every 6 months, I think. If you have more than 1 million, then they do 2 to 4 sessions in a year period. So if you do need more hands-on help, you can always give them a call and they'll set up an appointment. All right, the charts section. where we're going to be spending most, if not all of our time. I'll bring it up here first so we can just start from scratch. Let's bring up Tesla. Personally, I wish Thinkorswim was a little more, maybe, let me not use the word advanced, but some of its like controlling mechanisms, if that even makes sense, can be improved. But let me not go off on a rant on that. So starting from the top left over here, when we're in the charts tab, this empty section is going to be where you will look up the specific stock or ticker. So if I want to look up Apple, I'll just type in the ticker symbol for Apple, and then I'll click on it, and it'll bring up Apple over here. It's going to give you the name of whatever the stock or company is, the last price, the bid and the ask. So what people want to buy it at, people want to sell it at, the day change. Right now, the market is closed, so there's no change. It's going to tell you the time frame that you're on, what it's trading on, the NASDAQ, the date that we're looking at, and the time of the candle that you're on. So we can see that as I move along, it's going from 5 o'clock, 5:05, 5:10, so on and so forth. And the time is also down here. So it also tell you when you hover over the candle, it'll say O for open. So that's when what price the candle opened up at. H is the high, so the high that it hit. L, pretty straightforward, the low. And then C is going to be the close. And then I believe the R and the Y is just where you are on the axis on the chart. Now, to customize your chart, there's going to be two different tabs that we're going to be messing with. Flexible grid and just a regular chart. We're going to be on chart for now, and we'll go to flexible grid later on. So if you want more than one chart like this, near the top right, we're going to look at this icon right here, this box, right? Going to click on that option. It's going to bring up all of this over here. And essentially, whatever you highlight is the amount of charts that you're going to have up. So if I want 2, I'm just going to highlight 2. It's going to bring up 2 like this. If I want 3, you can do that. If you want 4, so 6, so on and so forth, kind of customize however you want. If you're like me, you really want your charts to be customized to your liking and what you like. So let's start over here with all of these items over here. Starting on the far left, this little like flask looking icon is going to be where your studies are. So you have all the default studies that TOS has, you'll find it here. If you import a study, you'll find it in this section. So let's say, for example, if I want to add in my strat numbers that I added in earlier, I'll hit add selected, hit apply, okay, and then it'll add the study or whatever it is that you're looking for. Let's say if you want to look for, should I have VWAP? Let's say you want to look for VWAP, add that in, and you can go into this little icon right over here. It'll let you edit the deviation, the color, the width, so on and so forth. Apply. And then I have these different VWAPs. So if you want to edit it for different items, instead of like all these 3 little lines, you can go in here and mess around with that, with the plots. In this case, for the upper band or lower band, if you don't want that, just mess around with the settings of whatever study you're looking for in this section here. Then once you're done, like I mentioned, just apply, okay, and it'll be on the chart. And then just click the little X to take it off. Another thing that I like is you can save a set, right? So let's say FTFC. I don't think I have FTFC here. I have ATR. Yeah. So let's say I want to have a set where the SATI ATR and the strat numbers are on this, and I want to quickly load all of them up in another chart. You can click on Save as Set, and of course name it whatever you want. Strat ATR, save, okay. And then on this chart over here, I'm gonna go back into the studies, look up my sets, click on this, use set, apply, and okay. And there we go. We have it added into the chart now, instead of going in and adding each one individually. So always helpful to just make things quicker, right? Next section is going to be the chart settings. So this is where you'll mess with like the color, extended data, pre-market data, so on and so forth, which we'll go over in a bit. This first section here is going to let you know if you want to like see your orders live on the screen, your alerts if you want to see them on the screen, studies, so on and so forth. You can mess around with that there. Usually when I'm drawing, I want it to snap to the candles or the bodies. So I'll click on where it says none, and you can do different things, either to the tick, open high, low, close. So like that pretty much just means if you want to snap to the open of the candle, the high, the low, or the close. I usually have it set up here. And then everything else here, for the most part, I just have it defaulted. And the time zone, you can have it to whatever your local time is. I'm on the East Coast, so I have it here, Eastern time. I never really do anything with the price axis or time axis, so I'm not really going to go into that. Favorite time frames. Let's say you like trading on the 15-second chart, which I believe they'll let you add. So we'll go into add time frame, intraday. Intraday just means like in that 24-hour period. So we'll get 1 day of data. Actually, do they let you do the second chart? I've never really tried. 1 minute might be, maybe I can do. Yeah, I don't think they'll let you do anything under the minute. I've never tried anyway. So yeah, you can essentially customize your specific time frame that you want to trade on. So if you want to trade on the 45-minute chart for whatever reason, now I have the 45-minute chart, which is only going to show me the 45-minute time frame for 1 day of data. And of course, you can customize this in the time frame section, where if you want to see 5 days of data or 10 days of data with that time frame, and so on and so forth. All right, let's get back into it. And then you can adjust where you want to have them in the list. I kind of keep that in from lowest to highest. Appearance, pretty straightforward in this section. You know, what color you want the candle to have. If you want to have a bar chart, Heikin-Ashi candles, or as we like to joke around with the Henny candles, which in my opinion, you should never use. A line graph, if you want to look at that for whatever reason. You can have it to fill the candles or not to fill the candles. Go in here, click on more if you want to have more options for the colors. If you want to get more of a color range, you can go into these different options here. And then you can just mess around with the hues to get a color that you like. For volume bars, I don't really use volume, but it's just the default color that's here. Background color, again, you can really make this whatever you want. You can make it blue. really whatever color you want. Ew, disgusting. So let's keep it simple. I just keep it dark. The grid, I don't like seeing a grid in the background, so I usually turn that off myself. So if you want to clean your chart, you can definitely turn the grid off there. In this next section in equities, this is going to be where you adjust where you want to, whether you want to see the volume bars on the bottom. So if I turn volume off, uncheck it, hit apply, it'll take off volume from the chart. Again, I don't use volume, so I don't really care for it. If you want to see extended data, which is these light gray spots right here, you can turn that off, apply. So now we're only looking at regular trading hours, which is the New York session. Make sure that you have it starting at market open. So it starts at 9:30 and not like at 9:15 or 9 o'clock, stuff like that. So always keep that in mind. And again, you can change the color for extended hours, the appearance section. You can show corporate actions like dividends. Let me go ahead and apply. Right down here, we can see how it turns off and on. So if you don't want to see, different news or when it pays dividend or whatever it may have been, you can turn that off on the chart. Options, same thing. If you want to bring up an options chart. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier is right next to the icon for the ticker that we're trading, you'll see this little chain icon. That's a symbol link. So you can have different charts up. So let's say if I have 4 charts up and I only want to see Apple on the left side, I can just link that to red. And then if I want to see Tesla on the right side, I can link that to blue. So now I have both of these right away. So if I want to look at something else, let's say RTY, it'll switch both of them at the same time, as opposed to manually going in and on every single chart, changing it to something else that you want to see. So just more efficient, a lot quicker, so on and so forth. But what I forgot to mention, if you want to look at your options contract at the same time that you're looking at your stock, so in the trade tab, let's say I'm looking at, let's bring up Tesla. Let's say I want to look at the call for 250. When you right click or double click, if you're on a MacBook, it'll bring up this section here. And then let's say I want to send it to yellow, the yellow chart. I'll go back to charts. And now I have the options contract here. So I can see the options contract information and reference it to the actual stock. So let's go back to this section. So in this case, again, I don't really care to see volume. You can keep that on if you want to. You can adjust that. I don't need to see extended hours for options. And then it'll just have your chart there. It tells you the premium price, etc. Futures, same thing again as equities and options, just whatever you wanted settings to have, just go in here. And then you could just customize that specific chart. So if you ever go on equities and you have extended hours on, but you're on a futures chart and you're like, well, where's my extended data? You need to make sure that you're on the futures chat or on the futures chart, you have extended data on, or else you're not going to see it. Any questions so far before we continue? All right. So moving on, if you want to, let's say, zoom in on the chart, Thinkorswim is a little different than for those who maybe have that may be used to TradingView. You're gonna click and hold on the screen, and you're just gonna drag for whatever candles you want to highlight. So if I want to highlight only, let's say, from market close to market open, it'll only show this here, the candles that I've highlighted. If you want to zoom out, you have this bottom bar here. It'll zoom out a bit. And you can, go through the candles, so on and so forth. If you want to reset the screen or the chart, just double click and it'll come back to the zoomed out section. On the options chart, can you directly trade on it? Great question. What you'll do is on the options chart, you will right click on it. You can either buy, it'll bring up this order screen here. And then if you want to edit the order, make sure to click on edit, and then you'll pretty much put in whatever you're looking to do. If you want to get in, let's say at 10.78 or 10.70, I'll just go to the price down here, 10.70. And then if I want this to save the order for, let's say, for Monday, once you have everything set up, the amount of contracts you have, if you're buying, if you're selling, the symbol, the expiration date, strike price, call, so on and so forth. If everything looks good, you're going to confirm and send, and then send that. And of course, it's not going to do anything because the market is closed. Actually, I think it said that I don't have any buying power, which is interesting because this is paper. Anyway, so, or maybe because I put 10. But yeah, you can pretty much just right click on the chart and you can bring up the edit screen or the trade screen and then edit and then just type in your order details that you want and then put that in there. And then when you're in the trade, it'll show on the screen your position. So if you want to quickly just exit it, I can't really show you now because again, the market's closed. It'll bring up a line with how many contracts you have. And there should be a little X icon. Click on that and it'll just get you out of the trade, or it'll bring up the order panel so you can get out of the trade. If you right click on the chart, just getting back to some chart things. If you get back to the chart and you right click on it, let's say I want to set up an alert at 244.36. I could just right click on that area, create alert, and you can adjust it here, above or below, so on and so forth. Let's do below so it shows up. Then it'll show up like this on the chart. And the order, like when you have an order in, this is essentially how it'll look like. Similar to this, it'll say like 2 positions for the option contract or the shares or whatever it may be. It'll be green or whatever you have your color setting set up to. If you're long, it'll be red if you're short. If I want to cancel that, if I want to cancel this, just right click on it and it'll cancel automatically. You can also quickly drag it up and down and then replace it. Or if you want to edit it a little more specific with more specifics, right click on it, right click, replace alert, and then just mess around with whatever you're looking for here. Could add some notes to it. You can have it notify you. And then you can have the alert either never expire or expire after a day. Again, really whatever you want. In this section here, like I mentioned, you can have it text you, depending if you have that enabled or if you just want to get a notification. But again, pretty straightforward. When you right click on the chart, it'll give you all the options, whatever it is that you're really looking to do. The style and drawings and studies can be here as well if you don't want to click on it up there. We'll get back to this up here in a bit. If you want to draw on the chart, again, just right click, add drawing. If I want to draw a trend line, let's say, again, it's not like TradingView where you can just click on the line and then just, drag it and drop. Since Thinkorswim is different, we're going to right click on the line. We're going to activate the drawing, and then we can just move it around wherever we want. And then you just right click to lock it back up. If you want to edit the line item or whatever drawing you have, click on edit properties, mess with the color, style, how thick you want it. You could extend the line left if you want to just to keep on going to the left forever. If you want to extend it to the right so it goes to the right forever, you can do that as well. Duplicate it, pretty straightforward. Just duplicates the drawing. On the right side, if you press and hold, you can zoom in or out on the candles if you want to make them tiny or make them bigger. So you can mess around with that there. Go left to right down here. I don't really use this like that. I kind of use my mouse wheel, but whatever works best for you. So coming back up here, like I was mentioning, the time frame setup, quick little section there. We already went over that earlier. The styles, again, this is going to be the appearance and equity, so on and so forth that we went over earlier. The drawings, they're going to be here. One thing to note, for those who may have used TradingView, I don't believe Thinkorswim has like an object tree. They kind of just have like drawing sets. So for me, usually I just have two things, one drawing set for fibs, another drawing set for my trend line. And then let's say once I draw this, edit properties, whoops, edit properties. Let's say I want all my lines moving forward to be blue and I want them to be dashed. I can save this as the default and I want them all to extend to the right forever. I'll save that as a default. Okay. So now any new line that I draw is going to have those settings instead of going back in over and over and over and over and over to make the same lines that you may be doing, depending what you're looking for, right? And there's different options here. If you want to type something on the chart, you have that up here. Whoops. Activate the drawing so you can move it around. Edit properties for the color. Change different options there. Cool. Studies, we already went over. You can quickly load up study sets in this little quick section here. If you actually don't want to go into this box, you can just quickly bring it up here. Load study set. And then it'll be added to your chart. Patterns, I've personally never used this. I'm going to assume that the system will detect these specific patterns for you. Again, I haven't used this, so I can't really give insight into that, but definitely mess around with it if you like. Next on the chart section, on the right side, right here, you have a little like quick access. So if you want to like place a trade, let's say on Tesla, if I want to buy 100 shares really quickly, and you can edit this as well. So if I want to add ask, bid, hit OK, and then it'll show up here on the list. I want to flatten, really whatever you want, honestly. You can add everything in here. So for those who may be more active traders, like if they're trading futures, for options, you can do the same as well. So right here, it'll show you what the option contract is. So let's say you're pretty active, where let's say for the sake of the conversation, it goes long and you want to get in at 1060. You could bring up active trader. On the the green side right here, the green box, you can just click on that and it'll bring up the specific trade to make sure everything is correct. Then if it is correct, when you're confirming it, just hit send. There are options as well. If you don't want this to come up, you can have it not give you this confirmation if you want to get in a lot quicker. So I just hold shift and then place the limit order and it'll show up on the screen. And I can either cancel it there. I can also drag and drop the different areas on the chart. I don't want to mess around with this here. So if you are pretty quick when you are trading, you can always use the active trader to quickly get in and out. Any questions on that? Making sense? Confusing? Sweet. My default time frame for the strat, I just have these up here. I usually have the 5 minute, 15 minute, 1 hour, or 30 minute and 1 hour for futures, and then just the 4 hour when I'm trading options, or the 5 or 15. That's all I use. One thing to mention as well, that something that helped me a lot, I don't like to babysit my options trade a lot. And when I'm trading, this is how my setup is. I have my 6 charts up, four for futures, and then 2 for options. So let's say if I have Tesla up, I'll have Tesla maybe on the 5 minute on the top, and then I'll have the 4 hour on the bottom, or vice versa, depending what I'm doing. I don't usually have the active trader up because it would remove one of my charts, and I don't want to make it too you know, I don't want to add too much stuff to my charts. So moving on with the left side, you can also quickly bring up the options chain. So if you don't want to go to the trade tab and bring up the options chain here, on the chart itself, on this right side here, it says options chain. You can quickly click on that and it'll bring up the chain here so you can quickly see it if you don't want to spend a lot of time looking at stuff. So I can always, let's say, look for December, right click, and I'll send this to yellow on the chart down here, and then it'll be updated down there. Yeah, Tony, I'll just set an alert where my targets are. And then once it hits that level, then I'll just get out of the trade or trim my position. I don't need to actively manage my trades because I mainly trade on the 4 hour for options. So for futures, um I'm a lot more active when I am trading it. So I'm actively managing my positions for futures when I'm trading it because my trades usually hit, or on average, they'll usually hit within 5 minutes, sometimes even 2 minutes to hit my targets. So I'm usually more actively paying attention to futures. For those who like to look at time and sales, which is essentially, you know, what time and what price and the amount that people were purchasing for that specific stock or ticker or whatever it is that you're trading, you can bring that up really quickly there. If you want to see level 2 data, which is, the orders that are sitting at specific areas. So something to keep in mind if you want to bring that up. Again, I don't use it, but it's good to have. So Tony, what I would do is to expand on that a little further. Let's say for the sake of the conversation, let me get rid of the option. Actually, we'll bring the options chain for now. Let's say for the sake of the conversation, let's go on the 4 hour for Tesla over here. Let me bring the options chain down here so the chart is a little bigger. And let me just get rid of this real quick. So let's say for the sake of the conversation, I want to buy calls as soon as the next candle breaks above this candle here, or let's use this candle here as an example. So the high of this candle is 249.55. So let's bring up Tesla here. Let's say I'm going to be looking at a 250 call. I'll right click on this. I'm going to buy single. When this order screen comes up, right next to where it says best on the bottom right, little gear icon, settings icon, you're going to double click on that and it's going to bring up this screen. You can set up a conditional order so it'll buy or sell at a specific price of the stock instead of like setting an alert and then having to kind of babysit the trade in a way, right? So let's say I want to buy one contract and I usually do a market order for this. Just keep in mind that you're going to get hit with slippage because you're market buying as opposed to limit. So let's say I want to buy Tesla and you'll type it in here. So the symbol, it's already going to be there for the most part for the option contract. The method, the mark is the price that you want it to hit at. So if I want Tesla to trigger me in, let's see, I think this is greater than. So I want it to trigger me in above, I think 249.55. So I'll type it in here on the threshold, 249.56, because I want to confirm that that level has broken above it, right? And then it'll tell you here. Oh, whoops. After you type in the price, just click out of it, and then it'll say it here. Wait until the following conditions is satisfied. Mark price of the security is greater, so it's at or above this specific price. So it's not going to do anything until Tesla breaks above that level. And then I only want to buy one. I'm going to have the time enforced for the day because if it doesn't trigger that day, that setup is no longer going to be valid for the next day. So I have it cancel the order by itself, or I'll cancel it ahead of time just in case. And then I'll save this. And then I will send that in. Let's see if it sends the trade. So now here it'll say market and it'll tell you buy Tesla, so on and so forth, when Mark is at or above 249.56. So I don't even need to get in the trade myself anymore. The system is going to do it for me. And then once you're in that trade, let's replace it. Let's assume that we're already in the trade and our first target is, let's say, 252. Instead, what you're going to do is you're going to hit sell because you want to get out of the trade. So if your target is going to be at that section there, let's say at 252, I can just type in here 252. So when Tesla hits this price, it's going to automatically sell me out of the position. So I don't even need to do anything. Or if you want to have a stop loss, and you want to manually get out of the trade, let's say you want to stop out at 246. Again, same thing, 246. Just make sure to change the trigger. You want to do less than. I made a mistake one time where I had it greater than, and it immediately got me out of the trade as soon as I sent the order by mistake. So you always want to determine, that you're either greater than or less than or greater than, so on and so forth. Always double check because I've made two mistakes for this. Thankfully, it only cost me a few dollars. It wasn't anything too crazy. As always, paper trade, get used to the feature. And then when you're comfortable with it, you can use it on your live account. Yeah, definitely will help with emotions. My targets, I use ATR, strat targets, and fibs to determine targets, Lee. So it really varies. So I have additional targets besides strat targets. But generally for the strat, you want to have the targets based on the time frame that you're on. Cool. Any questions about the conditional orders section before we continue? Sweet. Trailing stop. So Darlene, for the trailing stop, I don't use trailing stops for options, but in the price rules right here, you can set it up here. So let's say when Tesla hits this price, then your trailing stop is going to kick in and it can move your stop up. I believe the way the language is here in Thinkorswim, this is essentially, it'll move your stop up every 20 cents on the contract. Excuse me. And you can mess around with it like that. Again, paper trade with it because I've never used a trail stop on Thinkorswim. I only use that for futures, which is a little different since I use it in points. So definitely mess around with it in paper. And there's different settings here that you could do as well. Stop, a regular stop order, trail stop, really whatever you want. Percentage, do they have percentage? Let's see. Stopped link to mark percentage. It might be mark or percentage. So you can test that out, see how it works.
I just came off to ask a question instead of typing it because it might be misunderstanding. Can you do a stop limit order and okay, so a stop order where it hits your stop loss and also a stop loss in case it drops down. Can you do both at the same time? I think my friend told me that you can. So you can have it set if it drops below. As soon as you get into the trade, you go ahead and set it. So if it stops below, if it stops below, it can stop you out, or if it goes above, it stops you out of the. If it goes to
You
your
mean
thingy,
like a
it
bracket
stops.
order?
Well, yes, bracket. That's it.
Yep. So essentially the way you would do that, let's get rid of this. Let's delete that. I don't do it often on, well, I really don't really do it ever on the computer. I usually do it on my phone, which we'll go over a little later. But yeah, the OCO order, like Simone mentioned. So let's say I want to buy one of these, buy custom with OCO bracket. It's going to bring up the first order, which is right up here. The first one is going to be my second one over here. So let's say I want to take profit at, let's say 1500. And then my stop is going to be, let's say at 9.75. Again, same thing. Go over here. Does it bring it up? So the stop order going to be right here. Same thing. You're going to bring that up. Conditional order. So set this to 1. It'll keep it at 10. So what I would want is, I don't want a specific price. I'm going to do market. Tesla less than, let's say I want to stop out at 246. So if it's 246 or less, it's going to stop out and it's going to cancel the order for me. So let's save that. Then for the take profit right here on the limit section, I'm going to change that to market again. Instead, I'm going to do Tesla greater than. So if it hits 252, then it's going to get me out of my whole position. So now I have different conditions for these orders. So if it hits, so the bottom one is going to be my stop loss with the, if it hits that price and goes below it on the stock, or right over here, it's going to take me out in profit if it hits that specific price that I've set up over here at 252. And you can also combine this again with getting into the trade. I want to get into the trade once Tesla hits 250. Save that, and then you can send that over. So now it's going to show it here on the chart. It's going to show 3 orders. So 3 red ones, 3 green ones. And if you highlight over, it's going to tell you what's going on. So I don't even need to babysit this trade anymore. It's going to do everything for me. I usually only do this on the 4-hour because if I'm taking the trade off the 5-minute or 15, I don't have enough time to submit the order by the time it's going to trigger me in. So I'll usually have all my orders ready to go and saved before the market opens. And then once the trade is saved, once the market opens, then I'll send it because you don't want to send this trade and it gaps up, because if it gaps up and you say, hey, I want to buy Tesla above 252, if we're at 254, it's going to buy the calls up here. So you want to be very mindful that you're sending these orders in when it's still set up. If you don't set the OCO orders in the beginning, you can go back into the trade and set it up again, like manually. So let's see if it'll show all 3. I'm gonna have to cancel everything. So let's do it from the beginning. Let's say I just do single market. I want to buy calls above 250. Save that, and then I sent the order in. So cancel replace order. Let's see. I haven't done this in a while. Let's do create duplicate order. I don't think that would work. Can I edit it on the different screen? I always forget how to add another line item to this. Let's delete that. Let me bring up my order panel. You might be able to, I'm just not sure 100% right now how to add the bracket after the fact on desktop. I'll show you how to do it on mobile, which is where I usually do it on. Any more questions before we continue about the conditional orders? All right. Moving on to the flexible grid. I'm not going to go too deep into it. It'll probably be like 2 minutes that we're here. The flexible grid is essentially, you can customize it a lot more than the regular chart. So let's say if I want 3 charts in this quadrant, and then I just want to keep it like this with 3 big ones, or if I want to have split up, if I want to have 4 down here, it's pretty much just allows you more customization options for the chart. I don't really mess with this because again, I really just use the regular chart section. But if you want to have like 50 screens, like one of my buddies, I don't know how his brain doesn't implode, but you can customize anything you want here. Once you're done customizing your charts, if you want to get rid of this little box in the middle on the top right, you're going to click on the grid actions, and you're going to take off customize grid. So pretty straightforward on this section here. After the chart section, tools, they give you, if you want to make your own script. So if you want to make your own indicator, things like that, you can do it in this section. Education, they have like a bunch of videos, articles to help you with the platform, so on and so forth. Again, you can also call them if you ever need clarification. Give Schwab a call. This is pretty much the system is just like what resources TOS is using on your computer, which I doubt anybody will really check on. All right. Any questions on the desktop before we continue to the mobile app, assuming my phone and Zoom want to cooperate? Cool. All right. So let's bring this up real quick. Everything clear so far? Is this helping? Sweet. All right, let's see if my mobile app wants to participate today and work with us. All right. Sweet. Can you guys see my screen? Sweet. All right. So mobile app, pretty straightforward. Going to show all your positions here. For what I was mentioning in the scanner, if we click on watch list, let me actually bring up my annotation so I can, we're going to click on watch list down here. And we're going to click up here and it's going to have the scan that you have set up right over there. So if I want to look at inside bars in the 4 hour, I'll just click on that and then it'll bring up the 4 hour and I can just scroll through all the different positions here and then see what I like. For let's bring up a conditional order. So when we click on the trade tab, let's actually go back. When we click on trade down here, then we're going to click on options chain. And then let's say I'm going to be looking for, say it's same thing, 250 call. Let me actually go back. We're going to click anywhere in this section right there. So it can bring up the call options chain. Once this is up, it's going to let you know what the last price of the stock is, the bid, ask, the ticker you're on. Always want to triple check that, and the contract that you're looking at. Right in this section here, if you like drag it to the left and right with your finger, it'll show you the different data, like the theta, IV, all that stuff. If you want to edit the information that it has, whoops. If you want to edit the information that it has, where is that button? Unless they updated it and changed it. I'm completely blanking on where I added this before. We'll skip that for now. We'll come back to it when I remember. Anyway, always keep in mind the orders that you're doing. One thing that you should note is if you choose puts, sometimes it'll be defaulted to sell. So you want to make sure that you're buy if you're going to be buying to open trades. I made the mistake once and I was short a put and I was super confused while I was losing money when it was going down. So always double check what you're doing. All right, let's get back into the calls. Let's say I want to do my bracket order, or sorry, my conditional order. I'll do market for the first section of the trade. I'm going to click on conditions. And then we're going to do submit a market condition. And then I'm going to hit add condition. So I'm going to click on, this is for calls. So let's say I want to buy Tesla at or above the price of 250. Hit done. And then it's going to show the condition here. Next, if you want to set up your bracket orders, what you're going to do is hit more, create advanced order. I usually set up the take profit on the left and the stop loss on the right just to keep it uniform. So I remember. So click on add order, then click on this box. It's going to bring up the other screen. And we're just going to do our take profit in this case. So again, I'm just going to use the conditions just because I don't want to babysit the trade. It's going to keep the defaulted condition that you had before. This is going to be very important. Always double check the condition. If I want to take profit, 252, and then I'm gonna sell one contract, gonna hit done. So the left side for my take profit is done. The right side over here is gonna be for my stop loss. So I have market, or you could do stop. But this is gonna give you a specific price that you want to set up. I don't know what the price is gonna be when it hits that price. So since this is a stop loss, I'm gonna change this to at or below since I'm trading calls. And let's say I want to stop out at 256. Hit done. And then done again on the bottom right. So now I have my take profit and my stop loss and the original order there. I'm going to click on review. Be 100% sure that you read through all this information here. Because I made the mistake once where for calls, or I think it was for puts. For puts, I had the order trigger me in, and then for my stop loss, I had it above. No, I think I had it what was it? I had it below, or sorry, I had it above where my stop loss is. So if I was in puts and this was supposed to be my target, because the right now we're under, or sorry, we're the price is above where I just got in, it's gonna automatically take me out. Hopefully that made sense and I didn't confuse you guys because I confused myself for a second. But essentially, always double check the exact orders that you're inputting for the direction that you're trading. And then once you do that, like I mentioned, you don't, how nice. You always want to double check that when you put those orders in, that you don't just send it immediately because you do not want to get into a trade if it gapped up or down. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, but for the sake of the conversation, 250 to get into these calls. After I hit, after I have everything set up, I'm going to save the order. And then it's going to show up on my save list. So I have one for calls and then I'll have one for puts. And then depending where we open up at, I'll send the specific order in. Because if it gapped down, I'm not going to be putting in my put order because it's already past my entry point. Something to note, it might be like a glitch. After you click on one of these save trades and then you hit send, the other trades are going to disappear. So you just have to log out and log back in to the app, and then the other trades will show up. And then it'll show you, the canceled trades, the filled ones, the working trades, so on and so forth. Any questions on that? Making sense? Confusing? I'm telling you, it makes life a lot easier when you pre-program everything. Again, make sure to paper trade it until you get comfortable and confident that you're fully understanding the platform. I think that's all I have for the mobile app. Actually, no, we forgot to go over like bringing up charts and stuff like that. Yeah, Monique, this training is going to be available for recording. It's going to be placed on my YouTube later tonight when everything finishes uploading. If you want to look at the chart of a stock, after we click on whatever it is that we're looking at, say Tesla, and we're going to go to, actually, whoops, We're going to click on watch list and then just search up whatever you want. Let's say Starbucks. It's going to show you the chart. Let me bring back my annotations. Going to show you the chart, what news may be there, options, level 2 data, so on and so forth. So right now I'm looking at the day chart. I want to look at the 5-minute chart. Going to click out of that. It's going to load up. Let's actually do 1 hour or 4 hours for the last 2 days. It's the last 2 days worth of 4-hour time frames or 1 hour. The little bell icon, pretty straightforward. Set your alerts to whatever price you want. You can click on the screen to bring up your styles, your studies, whatever ones you may want to add. And then I can add them to the chart. Cool. So, oh, one last thing that I want to mention, because this took me a bit to figure out myself. Let me actually do that a little slower. I went a little fast. So we're going to click on this up here. Click on the little gear icon. And it'll have extended data if you want that on or off, time frame, studies you have, so on and so forth. Kind of just all of these things over here in that section to make it easier to find. So as always, definitely paper trade and get used to the platform. It can be a big learning curve in the beginning, but once you understand it and know how it works, it's really quite simple, honestly. So I'll definitely recommend that. Take your time. Once you're comfy, going with a little bit small position size. At least that's what I would do. Just so I don't, if I make a mistake, it's not it's not an expensive one. Isaiah, what I would say is send me an example like of one that you may want to place in the future, and then I'll double check what the settings are to see what may be going on. It might be like the market condition that was placed in the opposite direction that needed to be set potentially. So the trailing on the mobile app, where it said like limit market, all of that stuff, it's gonna bring up all the order types. So the trail stop, limit, market, so on and so forth. With the order type that you're putting in, it'll be in that section. So that's all I can think of, at least for right now, to go over with you guys. Did you guys have any more questions or anything that you wanted to go over in relation to the class today? My pleasure. And you can come off mute if you want. I'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll wrap up and enjoy our Saturday. I'll probably have the video posted by tonight on my YouTube. If not, maybe tomorrow, 100% by tomorrow morning, but should be good by tonight. I just have to edit some things and render everything. So if there isn't anything else, thank you guys for coming out. I will talk to you guys on the internet. Any questions you have, just reach out. My DMs are always open and we'll chop it up. Absolutely. Remember, if you want like a hands-on walkthrough, you can call Schwab and they'll walk you through everything with TOS for 45 minutes. Just remember, if you're under $1 million, it's I think one every 6 months or once every year. So make sure you have all the questions that you want answered ready to go. Thank you guys again. It was my pleasure going through this. Again, any questions you guys have, let me know and we'll go from there. Enjoy your weekend.